everyone, this is Dolly from the Career Orbit. So in today's video, we're going to spend time talking about CV hacks and how to put together a compelling CV that will attract the attention of hiring managers as well as recruiters, or otherwise known as talent acquisition specialists. So essentially your CV is the first thing that line managers or hiring managers get to see and notice about you. So you need to make sure that it is so compelling that when they look at it, they already can identify the fact that you are probably the most suitably qualified candidate for that job. Now, the first thing you may want to do is to make sure that you've got a very concise job profile, or what others may call a job summary. Now, a job summary is basically very concise, consists of about 3 bullet points max, and this basically details your skills and specifically your technical skills. So you're not going to talk about anything else, but really highlights of your top technical skills. So just to give you an example, you may want to say, I'm a qualified IT technician who's worked across many multinational organizations to help deliver the IT strategy. And then you also want to list some of the technical skills that you have, such as SAP, Oracle, which are IT systems, or any systems that are related to your role. But otherwise, keep it very precise and make sure that you actually talk about your technical skills and not your leadership traits and all of those other attributes. Keep it strictly to your technical skills so that when a hiring manager looks at those at a very high level, they're able to match you to the job immediately. So now let's move on to the second tip. So essentially you want to make sure that the job that you're applying for, insofar as the job description is concerned, really does match your experience, because you want to avoid applying for jobs where you don't have the requisite experience insofar as the competencies of that role are concerned. So look at the job description, try and marry it to your experience. If it doesn't match, you may want to look at applying for other roles which you may be more suitably qualified for. So let's move on to tip number 3. So tip number 3 is really just making sure that your CV aligns to what the job description is saying and the terminology thereof. So for instance, you may be doing exactly the same thing, but the way that it's actually articulated in the job description may be slightly different from the way that you would then articulate it on your CV. So just to give you an example, they may say that they're looking for somebody who's actually done dashboard reporting. So you will take that and say, I, as Dolly, have actually done dashboard reporting on a monthly basis or on a quarterly basis. So you just finish off that statement really, but you're making sure that you're aligning your experience in terms of terminology to what the job description is basically looking for. And what that does is that when the hiring manager looks at your CV, they look back at the job description and they say, okay, fine, there is some uniformity there, standardization and alignment. So therefore, this may be our candidate. So tip number 4. So you want to make sure that you actually keep your CV simple. Please don't inundate hiring managers with a lot of information, a lot of paragraphs. Remember, this is the first impression that they get about you, and they're not really looking forward to reading a novel, neither an essay. But what they're looking for here is a CV that's simple, concise, and to the point, really articulating your strong points in terms of that role, your competencies, your qualifications, and your experience. So articulate them just as they are. If you've completed certain projects, just say you have completed the following projects. Don't list the kinds of people in terms of their job titles that you've worked with, the number of hours that you've put in. Don't put any of those things. Be very concise. Be very explicit in terms of this is what you've done. Be very transparent, but make sure you keep it clean and simple. So remember when we started in this video, we spoke about making sure that you've got a job summary. So normally after your job summary, now you start talking about your experience in detail, and this is where the body of your CV comes in. So essentially, yes, this is where you're basically listing all of your work experience. Now, a couple of tips that I'm going to share with you in terms of how to make sure that the body of your CV gets hiring managers is, first of all, please just make sure that you use bullet points for each and every summary of your experience that you're putting in there. So don't put paragraphs, because hiring managers and recruiters are not looking to read a novel. Once again, they're not going to be reading your thesis. They really just want punchy, concise information about yourself in relation to your experience. So keep it simple. Make sure that you've got bullet points for each and everything that you have to say. Now, the second thing I would really advise on is to make sure that you use power verbs. Now, you ask me, Jolly, what is a power verb? So a power verb is an action word that makes sure that you basically tell your story or your statement in a very confident, in a strong, and very compelling manner. So to give you an example, rather than saying you did dashboard reporting, or you were doing recruitment, or you were doing financial spreadsheets, you want to use other powerful verbs such as you implemented a system, you arranged something, you actioned. So those are some of the words. You executed. Those are some of the words that you actually want to use, because when a hiring manager or a recruitment specialist looks at your CV, they can see the boldness and the confidence in terms of where you're coming from just by reading your CV in relation to those power verbs. Now, what I also want to add in terms of the body of your CV, please be very, very transparent about the number of years that you've worked in each company. I mean, if you do have a gap where you actually didn't have any experience or you didn't have any form of employment, you can write there that you are willing to discuss this in an interview. But don't hide the number of years in terms of the gaps where you are not working. Be very clean, be very transparent, because then they can see that they're dealing with an open and honest person that could potentially be part of their organization. So please just make sure you put your years for each and every job that you've actually worked for under the body of your CV. Put the number of years and be very transparent, and be willing to obviously talk about some of the gaps that are seen in your CV in relation to your experience or your work profile in general. So the next tip then is about your achievements. So a lot of people seldom put their achievements and their accomplishments in their CVs. Or if they do put them, they're not aligned to that particular role, so they just put them at the end. So just to emphasize, please make sure that you do put your achievements in there, because then your potential employer is able to see what it is that you've done successfully within the organization and some of the measures of success in terms of making sure that whatever project you were dealing with was a success. So please list your achievements or accomplishment, but when you do it, please just make sure that you put them underneath each role. So remember, the body of your CV is comprised of each and every role, and then articulating all of the relevant experience under each role in the years. So please just make sure that when you do that, you put your achievements underneath each role. Because if you take your achievements and your accomplishments and then you go and lump all of them at the end, it becomes difficult for hiring managers to be able to check that those achievements rather, and then marry them back to the rest of your CV. So just to make sure that you keep it clean and everything is transparent, take each achievement and plug it in underneath every single experience or role that you've actually worked for. And then most importantly, I want to share, when it comes to your achievements, please make sure that you quantify your achievements. So what do I mean by quantifying them? So you want to make sure that you articulate that your achievements were related to some efficiency. So whether that's saving money, saving energy, saving time, but you want to articulate some form of efficiency in terms of your achievements. Quantify them. If you can in monetary terms, then quantify them as well. But otherwise, be sure to say, I saved the company this much because of monitoring overtime. And that's just a mere example. And there could be other ways in terms of improving processes to make sure that you save the company time. Now, moving on to the issue of references. Now, some people get confused in relation to references, and in particular, relation to should they put their references on their CV, and who do they actually put as references. So let me make a couple of recommendations. So you're not compelled to put your references number one on your CV. So you are able to say that your references are only available on request. But I mean, if you want to be transparent with the employer, you can then put and list your references so that the employer is able to call them proactively. But once again, if you don't put them in there, I don't think that it is too much of a big deal, because if the employer really wants you to work for the organization, they'll go out of their way to then obviously ask you for your references. Now, on to who to put as part of your reference list. So my recommendation would be, please put people that you've actually worked with and they've got some kind of visibility in terms of your experience, and that can affirm the achievements and accomplishments that you've listed in your CV. So put people that are going to be there and make an impact, a positive impact, in making sure that you land that ideal job. Lastly then, just to summarize, remember to put together a compelling job summary. So this needs to be punchy, this needs to catch the eye of the hiring manager and the recruiter. So essentially you're summarizing your CV here in relation to the job that you're applying for. Make sure that it really is attractive and it is compelling. Remember, only technical skills on your job summary. And then we also spoke about making sure that the body of your CV is also concise, and it's making sure that you relate each and every role that you've been in to those number of years, and that you become very transparent where there are gaps in terms of the number of years. Remember, use power verbs. So power verbs are more stronger, and they make sure that they articulate your confidence as an individual showing interest in a particular role. Please make sure that you include your achievements under each relevant experience. And then just lastly and most importantly, please just keep your CV very simple, punchy, and to the point. No paragraphs, and make sure that you articulate your experience very well in a very neat and clean manner that basically catches the eye of the possible employer. Marry your CV to the terminology that's used in the job description. So thank you very much for watching this video. And remember, if you want to see more of our videos related to career progression content, please don't forget to subscribe so that you can be updated to the most recently available content, so that we can make sure that we help you create a sustainable and meaningful career. And then lastly, if you want to see more of this topic in terms of making sure that you put together a compelling CV, please just comment below and tell me that you want more, so that we can create some kind of detailed workshop for you and where we can possibly answer some of your questions. Making sure that your CV is compelling enough for the line manager to look at it and say, this is the candidate, without even having to look at your face. So if you want to see more videos like these, please let me know, and then we'll run a workshop to making sure that you create a compelling CV that will attract the attention of the hiring managers and talent acquisition specialists. Good luck with your job hunting, and please make sure that you apply these principles, because then you're one step closer to landing your dream job.